Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jedel Kebra. I'm happy that you have joined us for political conversation. Simple, truthful and biased, with Prof putting them across in a hard-hitting way. Good day to you. How are you?
Good day, Judge.
How have you been?
I've been okay. Relaxing a bit.
You haven't felt, this is the time where we get to hear the in January.
No, we're okay. We pray God and He's always on our side.
Yes. Our conversation for today, it's a difficult conversation to have because different sides of the divide say this government is practicing impunity. When you listen to President William Ruto's interview the other day, he said things were horrible during President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, speaking of 30 bodies in Tana River, 17 sort of in Garissa, saying there's even a container somewhere that people were being assassinated at here in Nairobi. It's a difficult conversation, and then you hear Azimio's side right now saying what Ruto is doing, he's leading us back to KANU eras. When you look at cases being withdrawn by our our courts, and you think, which side knows what really impunity is? And when you listen to these conversations, can you really say Kenya has impunity or all governments are as we have today?
What I can see, there's more lamentation than anything. And then impunity is obviously evident. But there's also something dangerous. I have not heard the president talk about bodies in Yala River, containers, and haven't heard.
He said that in the interview. I heard him.
During interviews, sometimes a phone rings, you go and take your phone and stuff like that. I didn't hear that, and I choose to believe it's not true that the president could say that. Because if it is true that during the last regime, which he served as deputy president, such atrocities were being committed by his government, how did he remain deputy president when the government was doing the things he's talking about? I wouldn't myself. At least, maybe then he's not a human being. If it is true I'm serving you as the deputy president, and your government is killing Kenyans and throwing them in River Yala, killing others in containers like you are saying, I will have to resign.
He said...
I cannot be part of your government.
He said that is the reason why he fired DCI boss George Kinoti.
No, that's... Before you fire the DCI boss and other people, ask this question, President William Ruto. What were you doing in such a government? I wouldn't. Then you have no conscience. How do I trust him as my president when he served as deputy president in a government that was killing Kenyans and throwing them in rivers? How would I trust him? Because he has no conscience.
Don't you think this is...
I wouldn't. A normal human being cannot be deputy president in a government that kills Kenyans and throws them in rivers and has a container in Nairobi from which to kill people. Then that can't be the president I want to be my president.
Let me just play the clip so that people listen to it.
It is not necessary for me to establish another task force when IPOA is there, and it is squarely within their mandate to tell us how did Kenyans end up being killed in this manner. And then it was business as usual. 30 bodies in Yala, there's 17 bodies in Garissa. I don't know how many bodies were. People, there was a container here at the Nairobi area. People were being slaughtered in a police station. How did we end up there? What kind of rogue, institution? And that is why I fired that Kinoti man. Because it's not right. Good people.
Should there be responsibility more than just firing?
Of course, there will be responsibility.
He did not resign. You fired him?
We'll have another.
You're saying he should have resigned, but now we have moved on, and now he's the president. Of course, regrets later probably have gone now. He's choosing now they're working with IPOA now to investigate some of these cases. Journalists asking him, will there be responsibility taken? Is this the right move for him now to look at some of the malpractice, some of the wrongs that were done in the Uhuru, some say handshake administration, to correct those wrongs while he's in power?
Let me tell you. People have tried to push the British government, then Her Majesty's government, to own up to atrocities committed in Africa. Talk about Kenya, for example. And just apologize. Why do you think they have found it difficult to do so?
Why?
That's why I'm saying African leaders, they don't have advisors. This government should know that running government requires a certain degree of seriousness and level-headedness and restraint. Governments are always conservative. Don't be quick to be harsh on the previous regime, because you forget that government exists in perpetual succession. So once you say government has done it, then the people troop to government for compensation.
I want to know.
In any case, how sure are you? How sure are you that actually it's government who killed those people? Are you really sure?
Because he actually said there's a container somewhere in a police station that these things were happening.
A president can't say that, even if it is true. You can't. Well, me, I'm a good-hearted man. I only tell government what I think is right. I'm advising President William Ruto. Be careful of the things you say. And those advisors next to the president, tell the president, no president can say what he said if it is true. That people found in Riviera, bodies, were there courtesy of government, impunity and atrocities. Then those people will seek compensation.
How about these cases that he says they were withdrawn because now he got into power and he was looking at the DPP, claiming that the DPP was being asked to resign if it doesn't prosecute some of these big names, including those that we've seen names withdrawn, saying they were being forced to join Azimio. What are we looking at in our previous administration? Because he says they will set up a commission within the next 30 days. The reason why they haven't set it yet is because they're working on other things to do with our economy and everything. What should he do? Because now he's trying to right the wrongs that, as he was the deputy president.
I've just done an interview with Radio Doshevele German. I mean, I think yesterday. I did the other day.
Yeah.
And in this interview, that question came up. What do Kenyans say about the people who are being released? One, it's being done with a speed that's sometimes called lightning speed. Two, it is of people closely associated with Ruto, including some of his ministers, and so on and so forth. So people think they are being released and set free because they are Ruto's buddies, friends, and partners, and whatever they are, part of his government. That may not be true, but that's a perception. That's what I'm saying again. Presidents work with advisors who tell them, tread carefully on this. Because the perception is they are being set free because of association with the president. And therefore the president is telling the judiciary, set my friends free.
But he said
that is the perception.
The perception, yeah.
That's the perception. Now, if you defend it by saying the DPP was being forced, the director of DCI, Kinoti, was being used.
Some sort in a cahoots with them.
Yes. Now, how about the judiciary that sustained those cases up to and including the time they were thrown out? Which means the judges who are handling these cases are incompetent. They can't read through a thing because courts can send you away after listening to you politely. Tell you this is, go and do more investigations. We've been to court. Say this cannot, you cannot charge someone on such a flimsy case. But that's not even serious. Serious as it may be, I should say. The one which is more serious, how then does the president expect the same director of public prosecution to win the confidence of Kenyans? The man who was coerced into bringing up trumped-up charges against Kenyans, you now want to trust him to handle Kenyan cases. The same courts that could not read through a make-believe case. You want me to appear before those courts and have the confidence in the judiciary, in the bench? I can't. So you see what I'm saying? This country must have a conversation around government and how government is behaving as government. Government is more behavior than action. You know, this is simple.
Yeah.
And these political scientists, the professors in this country, including these serious legal minds like Kithure Kindiki, why are they not advising the president? Government is more about behavior, perception, than even action. Because for people to allow you to lead them, for them to, you know, people in, political scientists will tell you, people surrender themselves to you as a sovereign. They surrender themselves to you. In order for people to surrender themselves to government, they must believe government is up to good. You get it?
Yeah.
It's capable. It's behaving well. So government is always mindful about behavior, the perception, how people view it and see things. That's why in America, these opinion polls are very important, and the UK.
Yeah.
That's why prime ministers go home. merely on ratings of opinion, pollsters and things of that nature. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And therefore, some of these things they are saying portray government as being not serious, behaving badly. You know, and they must work on that. Government must work on that.
Now, he accuses the previous government, saying even in elections, if Chebukati were only to speak, he'd say things that are unimaginable, saying the military was also part of all this when they are trying to rig the system and the IEBC. Now, that is what he's accusing the previous government. This other side, Azimio comes out and says, when you see these cases being withdrawn perception-wise, you say it's just perception. Azimio says when you look at the budget increment towards the judiciary, you say this is now taking us back to the Kanu era. Are you seeing what the Raila and the team is saying? Do you read from the same script?
I've already told you, we are in the theater of the absurd as a country. Government doesn't seem to work like government. The opposition seems to be also in disarray, not working as a serious opposition. You see, you may notice that there were certain things that were wrong with the previous government. But you don't climb on a rooftop as a government and talk about them. Because when you talk of government, it's not easy to separate Uhuru and the Ruto government. Government is the same. Government is the same government. When you say things, bad things have happened in the previous government, what have you done to correct them? If the judiciary was sustaining such charges until now when they are withdrawing them, why don't you start by sending them home? Why don't you start by saying the DPP and these boys should all go home? Then you start afresh. But they are there. You want us to trust them? So that's why I'm saying government must be serious in its approach to issues. Some issues could be, you could know there were bad things that happened in the previous government. But government will bear responsibility irrespective of who is in power.
Government bears irrespective?
Yeah, irrespective of who is in power. If government borrows badly, you cannot stop paying because the other government borrowed badly. You'll have to pay. But if it is true government killed people and threw them in Ivayala, you have to speak in low tones among yourselves. Because if you broadcast it, then the people are going to queue for compensation. And I ask them to queue quickly for compensation.
Saying people should queue for compensation. Yeah. But I just want to know, is this how governments need to work? Is this how governments work?
You see, when Ruto says he fired the... You know, this government is in need of advisors. I'm willing to volunteer. They should not even pay me. I can advise the president. Today you say you fired the director of DCI. When many years ago somebody took Moi to court for firing. Was it called Credo or something like that? CID or something like that. In the 1980s or 90s. Today in 2021, the year 2021, you say you fired. Where do you have the power? If you say the other government had impunity, where does the president get the power to fire the Inspector General of Police? He doesn't have the power. The Constitution doesn't give the president that power.
That in itself,
it doesn't give him the power to fire anybody. There are institutions. If it's a civil servant, the Public Service Commission is there and the procedure of firing an individual is there. The president does not feature anywhere. The DCI has clearly spelled out how he can lose his job. I don't think it is stated. I could be wrong. And I want to be corrected. Maybe I'm wrong. To be informed. Where does the president get the power to fire DCI, the DCI? Cannot. Where does he get the power to fire Mutembe? Where? I want to be made to understand.
Our conversation.
Maybe you haven't read the Constitution well.
But there are institutions to deal with that. There are processes.
Yes, there's due process. These days, even if you fire your own house girl, she will take you to court. So what the president is doing is inviting a lot of litigation. A lot of litigation.
I want to know...
And inviting Kenyans to look at the kind of impunity we left with the Moi regime seems to be coming back.
I want you to tell me...
Because I know the president is determined to make things work, which is good, and I would support it. But public affairs are not your affairs. They are public, they remain public. It's like a school principal trying to cane children. Utaenda kotini. Where you think you want to bring the best out of the children. Wanaamka saa 9 usiku, if they don't wake up, you cane them. You are well intentioned. But the rights of the children, you are encroaching on them, and you'll go to court. You'll be arrested. So the president could be well-meaning and well-intentioned, but he must know people have their rights. There are procedures involved in firing an individual. Even if you want to bring something good, the Constitution talks about public participation. You know, he must be aware. This is what I'm talking about, the advisors around the president. The intention may be good, but you run afoul of the law and the Constitution.
Can governments really work without this sort of being called impunity, or governments run without some sorts of some lies and some things that Kenyans are not aware of? Can governments really run? And you say Ruto cannot fire. Of course, Kinoti, the articles before was he has resigned, tendered his resignation. Should government work in a clear way?
What the president has done and said is enough for Kinoti to go and seek compensation to get hundreds of millions of shillings.
They are compensating many people.
Yeah. Say, you know, I was cost. And none other than the president has admitted in public that I was caused to resign. I was humiliated. I've lost respect among, you know, those things the lawyers will tell you. It's not just his salary for the days remaining. No. It is many things. 200 million. Kinoti, please, if you are given 200, give me 10%, 20 million. Go and sue the president, the government, for firing you. And procedurally.
What is your advice for Ruto moving forward when he goes to these interviews? He says more
avoid
than
interviews. Presidents avoid interviews. First, governments do bad things all over the world. You don't invite questions and discussions. You call a US president and try to talk to him about Guantanamo Bay. He'll run away. Things presidents avoid talking about. And when presidents speak, I'm a communications expert, I can tell you. They speak and after 1 hour they have said nothing. If you attempt to say something, you will be caught. You see like things he's saying now. So avoid unnecessary. You think you are showing you know. Avoid too much exposure. Don't expose yourself. Work. And before you go for an interview, because the questions are there, talk to your experts. They will tell you, hapa mzee, don't touch this. You will introduce this. When you go on this one, be very brief. For the reason that if you go deep into this, you'll get caught up in this mess. This avoid for legal issues. They will advise you because there are people who are trained and they know, they're experts. But if you think you'll speak as if you use, in a manner you used to speak when you are now you are the president. Every word the president utters carries a lot of weight and can commit the government and the people of Kenya in things like compensation. Like these things, just what he said over the interview, alone can cost the government over 1 billion shillings.
Well, your advice to him is every word he utters.
When you speak, you know the world is listening and the people are listening. And your word carries a lot of weight. And if somebody were to cite what you have said in a legal tussle, the courts will listen to that person.
Thank you so much for tuning in into a political conversation of impunity. Every word the president says must know something might come out of it that might render the government into compensation spree. Until we do talk again, just have a lovely rest of your day.